Hello my loves and welcome back to my channel, this here little bookish corner of the internet. I thought it would be a great idea to bring this one on. Do people still hate it when people call their significant other this one?
I think when you're actually referring to them as this one.
When they're actually
yeah,
right
I feel
here,
like that's okay,
as opposed to like in an Instagram caption,
yeah,
which I don't even have Instagram. Anyway, I thought it'd be fun to bring Philip on today.
You go to Instagram in the web browser. You're like an old lady. You're like a grandma.
It's so true. The people sign their Facebook comments.
Or text messages.
Great photo, Sharon. Oh my god. I thought it would be fun to bring Philip on today because we have been apart a fair bit recently, which is why I haven't brought out a video because my trusty cameraman has not been around. I went to Europe for 5 weeks for work stuff and he was working in slightly less
European
nice part of the world.
It's pretty up there.
I mean, you described it as like being lonely and smelling of cow farts.
It does smell of cow farts, pickled cow farts, but it's pretty to look at, not so much to smell.
So, you guys enjoyed the last video that we did together, but this is actually the first video where Philip is in front of the camera live, I think.
We weren't actually together in the last one. We were very separate.
I will link the last video that we did together, which was where I sent him to buy my books. Loved doing that video, and somehow I have managed to bring him back in front of the camera, which is super exciting. Today I thought it would be fun for us to do the partners reading tag, I guess it's called. I hate the word partner to describe a romantic person personally. It sounds like
partner.
As opposed to what?
No, when I say partner, and then you say partner, and then we shake hands.
Okay, good.
You did it wrong.
I'm not gonna do that.
It's like in Spies Like Us, you know? Doctor, no? We got some movie
I've kind of rewritten the partners, couples, reading tags that I've seen before, just because I thought it'd be fun to... Can I say I thought it'd be fun more than in this video? I've said it about 14 times already.
Put a little
counter
chart here.
To change it up a little bit. So I think he's got the gift of the gab as much as I do. So we'll see you in 3 hours once we're done here. And I hope you enjoy getting to know him a little bit more and getting to know how crazy we are together. And I'm just happy to be in the same country as him and able to do a video with him finally. If you like it, we will do more. If you smash the like button, then maybe I'll convince him to become a YouTube personality with me.
You're the worst kind of person.
What are you reading?
Okay, so I'm currently on book 5 of the Expanse series, which is called Nemesis Games. I started it yesterday while cooking because I finished Sybil Laverne and just could not leave it at that. So popped the next one in, but I'm cheating because I'm listening to them on Audible. Not Spawn. How do you say that? Non-Spawn? Not Spawn. They're not, unfortunately.
I can tell you're not a booktuber.
No.
What is it?
I figure everybody knows about the Expanse series because it's super famous.
Well, I didn't.
The Expanse series is a series of, I don't know how many it's going to be, but like as of this year, it will be 8 books, and then next year there's already a release for 9 novels, and then a couple novellas of it's a science fiction series. It's a sort of hard sci-fi, as in the technology and stuff.
When he's not sure or something, his voice
gets a little bit higher.
Yeah.
So hard science fiction, right? It's like science fiction that's doesn't have fantasy elements, like doesn't have super unrealistic technology and like faster than light stuff, physics breaking stuff.
One sentence premise.
One sentence. I can't one sentence premise a series of 9 books. That's just ridiculous. I don't know what.
No,
I don't
but
know
are
what
we
you
talking
people get up to on the
aliens?
internet.
Are we talking futuristic machines? Are we talking cool female heroines? Are we talking all of that?
Probably all of that.
All right, cool.
There's spoilers involved in that question. I don't want to ruin people's experience.
So if you like hard sci-fi and if you like series that have 95,000 books and you've already read Game of Thrones, then maybe you should maybe you should consider the Expanse series.
It's really well written, and the science is really cool, and the descriptions of traveling really fast, but not impossibly fast, and what it does to the human body is really interesting and gave me new perspectives. And I've read a lot of science fiction, and I've watched a lot of science fiction television and stuff, and this really delves into fresh and interesting subjects, and the characters are absolutely what makes the story. Like, the universe is glorious and like super well developed, and then it just kind of exists in the background, and then these characters make a story happen in this really cool universe. And,
it's actually really cute because since you've been listening to the audiobook, it's like you're watching a soap opera or something, because like you'll come in and be
oh
like,
my god, you would not believe what Naomi just said to Jim. It is ridiculous. Yeah.
So I am finally on the wagon with Meg Wolitzer's The Interestings, which came out in, I believe, 2013 and has been recommended left, right and center, and I'm finally getting to it. I thought it'd be a good one on audiobook because
Not
it's
fun.
long and sprawling, and we were both in need of audiobooks. So there you go. If you haven't read it or heard of it, it talks about a group of friends who meet at summer camp during Nixon's presidency, the summer where he resigns, and it is about following them throughout the entirety of their lives, and it does some fun things temporarily, like it's not at all linear. It's very, very character driven. It's been described in a lot of reviews as plotless, but I wouldn't agree. It's just it has the same level of plot as like Life actually does, which is actually quite a lot of plot. It just doesn't happen particularly quickly or suddenly, which I appreciate because I like books that are super true to life. I've got 3.5 hours or 4 hours left, I think, and I am really enjoying it. I'm super attached to the characters. I think Meg Wolitzer does some amazing character-driven writing, and
One sentence summary.
I'm assuming that her aim was to...
Politics. Oh, sorry. I thought we were doing...
that's actually pretty good. You must have been listening over my shoulder. But no, I think that she's really good at what she does. I think that if her aim was to make us feel like we are another friend in the group, then she really has succeeded in that. The only thing that I would say, sometimes it veers into, for me, like overwritten, slightly pretentious territory, but I don't really mind that because I love the characters so much. So there you go. I will report back in some recent reads, probably in like 1.5 years, knowing me.
You're so much better at this than I am.
Yeah,
it sounded like you thought that out.
You haven't been doing it for ages.
But I've been watching you do it.
This is basically against your will.
Yeah, that's true. No, I get to ask the next one. Have you always liked reading / read a lot?
I have always loved to read. I taught myself to read when I was 3.5 in both French and English. It was always a massive hobby during my childhood because I like couldn't run around and play and stuff with all of my friends, and so I would just go and fall deep into books instead. Harry Potter audiobooks were books that were my friends through a really, really hard period in my life when I was recovering from surgery when I was about 10 years old. So those books really changed my relationship with reading. I loved to read. I have always read loads, except for while I was at Durham at university when I basically stopped reading. It was a mixture of loads of things. It was because I was reading loads for my degree, and I think that happens to a lot of people. They start reading like really academic stuff and then lose interest in reading anything for pleasure, and so that definitely happened to me. And also I went through probably my worst bout of clinical depression and bad mental health stuff, and my attention span was just really shit. And still now, 5 years later, I am working to bring my attention span back up to where it was. Like, I think that's something that I've heard a lot of our generation talk about, like really struggling with attention span. I'm not really sure for me if it's mental health related anymore, but I do read a whole lot more now thanks to all y'all at Booktube.
It's a good word, right?
I love watching Booktube, and just like the unbridled enthusiasm for reading just makes me want to read anything and everything under the sun. And actually I spend more time worrying about all the books I'll never have time to read. But right now I'm reading about like 50-60 books a year. So and I think like last year I read close to 100, I want to say. So like I want to continue at that level, and I want to continue it beyond just wanting to review them. Like I just want to do it for pleasure, and I think I'm really getting back into the habit, and I think it really is a habit that if you fall out of like the habit of doing it, then you just won't pick up a book, like versus watching a TV or like playing a video game.
I agree with that, and that's the problem that I ran into. In answer to the initial question, yes, I have always liked reading. I spent a ridiculous amount of time in my elementary school library, making the librarian order books from other schools because I'd read all the ones at my school that I was interested in. My mom was a librarian and a school teacher, so there was always encouragement to read in the house.
Wait, I love having a mother-in-law who loves books as much as I do.
It's fun, yeah. We still get to talk about. My mom and I have some similar reading interests. Yeah. Like I got her into John Green and all of that good stuff. But I also went through a dry spell of reading. Actually, I went through 2 dry spells of reading. One was kind of, I guess, probably around when I turned 21 and was distracted by other possibilities that a 21-year-old single man can experience.
And beer.
And then I started reading again shortly before I moved to Los Angeles, and then I moved to Los Angeles, and I was mostly just trying not to become homeless and starve to death, so kind of not in a headspace to read.
Yeah.
And then I rediscovered audiobooks, because I'd always liked audiobooks growing up as well. Also like the Harry Potter books. I don't have a touching hospital story associated with them. I just listened to them over and over again at night and went to sleep hoping that I'd wake up in Hogwarts, and was perpetually disappointed by that not happening.
Oh my God, right?
Team Jim Dale.
No, Team Stephen Fry. This is a major sticking point in our marriage, you guys. Because I grew up with Stephen Fry narrating the audiobooks, and he grew up with Jim Dale. And like sometimes I forget that there's this massive cultural gulf between us, because like
which is that basically
we've been together for 4 years, and like I feel like
the Fry-Dale gulf.
It's not, and like I'm becoming, dare I say it, more and more American. Like the longer I live here,
Gross.
to the point where I can't do grammar like most. Anyway, but yeah,
don't blame that on America.
I think like I forget the massive cultural difference until we talk about like Stephen Fry versus Jim Dale. Anyway, that's cool. We should move on because.
Oh sure, you get to answer forever, then you get to talk forever during my answer, but no, fine. I don't care. I love Stephen Fry, by the way. I don't really know Jim Dale other than as a narrator of the Harry Potter books.
Oh, does he not narrate anything else?
Yeah,
like
I think he's also an actor and stuff. But I mean, Stephen Fry is not a narrator. I mean, he narrates as a side job for fun. I mean, Stephen Fry is frickin' Stephen Fry, who's amazing. Thanks for watching, Stephen.
I would literally die. Do you read together, and what do you like about it?
Yes, we do.
We always have, actually.
Yes. Since before we were married, we read together, even over Skype and stuff.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, before I moved here, we were already together for some months, and so our only method of communication was Skype, which we did every day, pretty much
we had
without
Skype
fail.
And Facebook Messenger.
I think we missed but like
to see each other.
Yeah.
Google Hangouts.
But I think like probably every night for like 4 months.
And sometimes like not at night, multiple times a day.
Without fail. Yeah. And so one of the things, because of time difference, his daytime, like afternoon/early evening, was when I was going to bed, because I'm massively nocturnal, and I really, really struggle with sleeping. Like I have chronic sleeping problems. Like I really struggle to stay asleep. And so one of the things that used to help me was him reading to me. And so that's what you did for many months.
Yeah, I read you to sleep a lot. What did I read?
Well, it took
Some
us
of it
about
was the shit that I wrote,
it took us about 6 months to get through Douglas Adams' Last Chance to See.
That we didn't read over Skype.
Book.
We read
that.
that.
No, we did.
No.
Guaranteed.
Well, we may have started it, but we finished it in Fig.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It took like 6 months.
Sure. Yeah.
Because
we were a little
falling
distracted
asleep.
Yeah, it's true.
And also we were distracted by telling each other.
And I would know when she fell asleep, but so I would have to keep reading, because I didn't want her to immediately wake up when my voice went away. but I would then have to go all the way back to like a good 10 minutes before she fell asleep. So basically we made it like 2 sentences because I'd have to just reread the whole thing.
But then like somewhere after I moved, it flipped to me reading to you.
Yes, because I'm not as good at reading as you are.
Well, I think you're not good at reading aloud books that you haven't read before, is the reality of the situation.
Yeah, well, I don't think ahead. When I read, I'm reading every word, like eyes to brain. So if there's a long word or something, I'll start saying the word before I'm 100% sure what the word is. I don't experience that problem when I'm reading silently.
Do you like it when I read to you?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Am I a good reader?
Why am I talking like this? Yes, you are a good reader. And yes, I very much enjoy it.
What has been one of your favorites?
My immediate first answer, without even really thinking about the question, was the Immortalists.
Oh, interesting.
I think maybe also because we read it while driving on the road and stuff.
Yeah, so this was The Immortalists by Chloe Benjamin, which had a cool premise. Basically, it's about 4 or 5 siblings who go to see a fortune teller when they're really young, and the fortune teller tells them the date of their death, and none of them are very sure whether or not to believe it, whether she's a bit of a hokey or whether she's serious. And then it basically follows them. I guess it's similar to The Interestings in that capacity, in that it follows siblings throughout their lifespan, basically, to see if what the fortune teller said was true, and also mostly how they deal with this knowledge and how much they take it to heart. And so it's kind of like how we choose to live our lives in the knowledge of death. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
I think it could have done probably even more with its premise if it had tried. But
yeah, but then I feel like it would have been magical realism or fantasy in a way that it wasn't. Like, I thought it was cool because it was more like an indie movie where there's like this premise that's kind of quirky, but then the story it's telling is just a typical family story, and it's just kind of informed by there's a sense of kind of dread and doom created because it's about death, right? But then the effects and impacts that it has is not so directly negative. It's just, but there's this sense of foreboding that goes over the entirety of the book, and in places where normally it would be full of levity and stuff. It is funny and sweet and beautiful in parts, but
I did really like it. I thought it all...
I hard disagree.
I thought it all fit together a little bit too neatly, but I did really like it, and I think that Chloe Benjamin's a really good author, so if that sounds fun to you, you should also pick it up. My favourite, without contest, was Station 11 by Emily and John Mandel, which I fucking love that book.
Yeah. I feel like I probably like Station 11 as a book maybe more than The Immortalists, but the actual reading experience...
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, one I read to you and one we listened to as an audiobook.
Which one did we listen to as an audiobook?
The Immortalists.
Oh, we did. Well, no, it's not. It's certainly not because of that. I think it just has to do with where we were and how much of it we could read at a time.
I think I'll remember Station 11.
Yeah, Station 11 is super cool. I mean,
so much, and I've spoken about it at length on this channel, so I will link to one of those videos down below.
Is that your top want to make into a movie books you've read?
God, I would love it, but I think it's optioned.
That's not the point.
Well, that.
Oh, yeah. if it's not optioned, then that means you and I have the ability to make it as a movie. With all that money we've got just kicking about.
Sure.
Darn. The one thing stopping us from making that movie, Miss Mandel.
Where is like the overlap in our reading taste since we read together?
Sad post-apocalyptic books about kids.
It's so true. I was thinking 2 main overlaps.
Okay.
Like, I'll indulge your slightly sci-fi, like, post-apocalyptic thing. Yeah, like, okay, The Immortalist is not sci-fi at all, but it has, like, a magical realism premise that you like that type of stuff. And then Station 11, like, you like post-apocalyptic. You basically like
I'm not a big post-apocalyptic fan, actually. I think mostly it's terrible. I think there's a couple that are super amazing, and they created this whole genre that then most of it is just banal. But
you like stuff that isn't necessarily, like, steeped in the real world.
Sure.
Whereas,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. I'm not. Super
I am
interested
obsessed
in,
with hyperrealism. Like, I
Right.
love the relationships between people and whatever.
I don't think I've ever read a regular novel that wasn't a classic
I feel like we
and
find
wasn't with you.
an overlap there. Like, stories that are a bit on the edge of the real world,
Yeah.
but like still talk about the people within them mostly.
Yeah.
And then also,
What about Radiance?
well, Radiance was so good,
That
and
was
I've
so
also
good.
spoken about it. It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
like this weird experimental novel by Catherine M. Valenti, which talks about all the planets like Venus, Mars, whatever, and what would happen if we made films on those planets, which of course like is at the crux of both of our overlapping interests, right? About like film and literature and
Yeah.
like
This bizarre like retro sci-fi. I mean, it's really kind of if the French movie Journey to the Moon, or I'm gonna kick myself later, like one of the first movies ever made. You've seen it. It's like the moon's a big smiley face and the scientist gets shot there in a bullet.
yeah.
And it's kind of like if that world were real and that's how our solar system were set up, that you could just get into a big cannon and get shot to other planets because all of the planets are close enough that can happen, and people can breathe on them and everything. It's like this bizarre parallel world of that kind of 1900s
Yeah, it's like the
imagination.
1920s.
Or even earlier. I feel like
Yeah.
it's like 1908. It's
And
like,
then-
like the Great Train Robbery era.
So the thing that I love is novels that aren't necessarily written in like a linear fashion. Like I love epistolary novels. I love like random lists. I just love writers experimenting with like form and structure, and Radiance is absolutely that. No
Yeah.
chapter is written. You have some film scripts, you
Yeah.
have some letters, you have some like random notes that people find. It's really amazing and we loved it.
Or
But
a
the other
noir detective story.
yeah, but the other massive overlap that I was going to talk about is anything
Nonfiction?
true crime.
Yeah.
And nonfiction. Like
Right.
we both love nonfiction, and especially true crime. Like we're both true crime podcast aficionados.
You definitely more so than me.
yeah,
I
but
really appreciate the good stuff, but then I'm not so interested in it that I'm willing to take a lot of risks.
Yeah.
I feel like.
whereas I am like
mhm.
I don't know. I'm like the peak white millennial girl who loves true crime, I guess. But no, we've read like some
I'll Be
really
Gone in
good
the
true
Dark,
crime. And actually, that brings us nicely on to our next question, which is the next book that we plan to read together.
Oh, the Lolita one.
Yeah, so let me just check.
Yeah.
So the next book that we plan to read is by Sarah Weinman. It's newly out this month, I believe, and it is called The Real Lolita, and its subtitle is... and its subtitle is The Kidnapping of Sally Horner and the Crime... the novel that scandalized the world. The Kidnapping of Sally Horner and the novel that scandalized the world. And
Don't worry,
that
I'm going
is-
to cut that so that it sounds like you nailed it the first try.
Please do. And that is right up our street, I think.
Yes.
Because it's like
Yeah.
a literary true crime exploration of the actual crime that inspired Lolita. So if you
Yeah.
didn't know this, Vladimir Nabokov's Lolita was actually inspired by a crime that truly happened to a girl called Sally Horner, and a lot of people don't know that. And actually, like, I have a lot of feelings about how Lolita has turned into a classic piece of literature,
Right.
even though it's like really, really horrible and like
rape apologist.
yeah, and like
literature.
highly misogynistic and terrifying.
Yeah, it's like,
And so
well, it's a straw man argument, right? It's like, well, this girl in this novel is totally in charge of her femininity because she's a fucking fictional
Right.
character invented by a horny old man.
Right,
That's, It's such
exactly.
an irritating thing that people will talk about it, like as though Lolita is a real thing.
and so I think that it was about time that a badass female author go and do a deep dive into that, you know, and
Well, it seems like Nabokov is somewhat implicated, not in the crime, but in sort of preventing the spread of the knowledge
The
of the
real
truth,
story from
because
coming
it
out.
would have threatened this fake persona that he created in his novel. That
yeah,
seems
I
like
think so.
And there's some scandalous What seems like, I don't know yet, but it seems like there's
And
some scandalous stuff in
also
there.
making sure that Sally Horner, who was the real life victim, that her name should be out there and that people should know that her life was a thing and meant something, and that she wasn't just like fodder for this novel that has become a classic. Anyway, so that's our next thing, and we almost actually bought it the other day when we were at Skylight.
It's true. But then we got distracted by Clementine Ford.
Yeah, so we went to a book event together. We have decided in the year 2018 and onwards that we will try to go to 6 book events a year as kind of like a date night. Like the idea of being able to take my husband to a book reading and then take him out for dinner is just like, that's why I married him, because he'll do things like that with me and actually be interested. Did you take me to dinner
after Clementine Ford? Did I take you to dinner?
We came
No, I
home
cooked
for
dinner.
Yeah. But no, anyway, it's a date night, and we went.
Yeah.
We went to that cafe before.
We did go to that cafe before.
And had delicious toast,
That
delicious hipster Los Angeles toast. But Clementine Ford, if you don't know, and I'll be quick because I want to wrap this up, because otherwise we're going to have so much to edit. Is an amazing, amazing, outspoken, angry, articulate, funny, intelligent Australian feminist who actually Philip introduced me to because he's followed her on Facebook for a long time, and she writes a lot there and shares a lot of her articles, and she has written a book called
Fight Like a Girl.
Fight Like a Girl, well remembered.
And then she's written one that just came out, which is Boys Will Be Boys, which is about her kid, her raising her little boys, but that's just released in Australia, New Zealand, maybe.
Australia.
At this point, so that'll be.
And so we went to see her read from Fight Like a Girl, which was amazing, and then her in conversation with the lady who runs an Instagram account called By Felipe, which we will put up on screen here, and is a great name. And that was really, really interesting, and I think we were both really galvanized by it. Shout out to Skylight Books, which is fast becoming one of my other favorite bookstores in LA. You guys, like, I don't like this city, and I'm ready to move out of it, but man, it does have some cool indie bookstores, and Skylight is one of them, and I would really like in the very near future to take you guys in there. When I have gone book shopping with the camera, you guys have really liked it, and I really want to just do some shouting out of cool indie bookstores because they exist in horrible, large, sprawling cities like this one. So I'm hoping that I can take you there soon, and I hope that if you are local to the area, you may visit Skylight Books. It just looks really appealing, like everything looks so appealing and like you want to read it, which is the best thing about good bookshops. Anyway, we've been talking for ages, and
do we have any more questions?
Yeah, we do, but I've made an executive decision.
No, I'm asking you. You don't get to ask all the questions. I'm asking one.
No, but
one last
basically,
question.
it's been so long.
Well, then we can delete it. It's fine. We don't have to answer the question.
Let's face it, we're cutting this out. This is like useless content, TM.
Yeah, it's useless content, TM.
Let's say bye.
X.
Ow.
What?
I hurt my hip like an old lady.
What did you do?
I don't know, I leant forward and it clicked.
You leant forward?
Yeah.
Is that proper English? Leant forward?
Yeah, I think so.
Answer in the comments.
Leant or
lent?
leaned? I hate us.
Okay.
Anyway, you guys, if you liked Philip in this video, and knowing him, he's probably going to cut out half of what he said. But if you liked him in this video, then please tell him so in the comments. Not only will he like that, and I will too, but it will let me know that we should do more videos together in future. And in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this long, rambly chat between me and my love. And I will see you guys very, very soon. I've got some time to be shooting some videos, and I'm going to Boston in the coming week or so. So that's exciting. Let me know what you've been reading and how you've been, and I hope you are safe and happy and reading well. And I will see you soon. Love you all. Bye. Say bye.
What you looking at? What you got there?